good. You need the electrolytes. And the electrolytes are the same with your bodies. They go in your brain, so they're very important. Then we go from minerals to enzymes to vitamins to protein. Now, this is coming down the biochemical chain, but at the same time I'm showing you an electrical and a precursing, parameter to make this work. Otherwise, if you don't have these, this chain won't go in this manner. You break this chain, it'll fall apart. Next you come to protein. Protein now is a denser substance. The body now begins to form protein. Then the protein begins to combine in huge clusters on the DNA level, forming peptides, and then finally it forms hormones. Hormones are the first unit of biochemistry that contain consciousness. You have 7 different endocrine glands in the body and 7 different sets of hormones in these glands where they function. Okay? Any questions on this first part here now? Hormones are very important. For example, testosterone, estrogen, or female-male hormones, sexual reproduction, certain body regulatory things in the body. Steroids, corticosteroids in the solar plexus area, yellow energy field, okay, for example, on the chart. These have to do with energy, motivation. Going up the chain, you get into things like vasopressin. Vasopressin is a motivator. It's found in the pituitary gland, okay? So the hormones are very important because that's where your consciousness is. If you don't have those hormones, I don't care how much praying you do or how much fasting you do, if the hormones aren't in the body, the physical body will not have any consciousness. You might have consciousness in your spirit body, because everybody's spirit body is absolutely completely perfect, but how many of us are in touch with that perfection? In this lifetime, you won't be in touch with it. It's there for you when you're ready for it, but you got to take this consciousness that we have down here on this plane and bring it up to that perfect plane of existence. Yeah. Is what? Oh yeah, I have it in tapes and books, and our booth we got all this stuff. This is just an overview. Okay, this is 6 months of education here or something. I don't know how long it takes to learn it all. So anyway, the hormones are stored in the endocrine glands. Now the endocrine glands you have to get the hormone up to the brain to make it work. So we break this chain right here, and we have what's known as vibration. Once the hormone is formed, vibration sends it up to the brain. When it gets up to the brain, the brain is basically a switch. It's a switch. It's one kind of a switch. It's called a receptor, that when the hormone comes along, it takes electricity out of the electrolytes and sends it down through the 72,000 major nerves in the body, creating an electrical field pattern known as the aura field. The other type of switch in the brain is an effector, which has already got an aura field going because it's closed, and when the receptor arrives there, or the hormone arrives there, it stops this flow and cancels out this aura field. It turns it off. So basically what the brain is doing is turning on and turning off electrical nerves, or nadis, through 3 central nervous systems in the body, creating all of the consciousness of the body. Okay? That's how it works. Now, what are vibrations? Okay? What causes these changes to take place? Vibrations are sounds, are lights, are colors, are planetary energies, lunar energy, for example, stellar energy. The influence of the stellar energy is much more now than it used to be. Lunar energy is pretty consistent. Right now, we're in what's called the full moon period. We went into it last night at 3 o'clock in the morning. We'll be in there for about 2 1/3 weeks, 2.5 weeks. Then we'll go into the new moon period. If you're working with Pleiadian devices, like large systems devices that are available, then you'll learn all about how to work with a new moon and the full moon cycle. If you want to start a new enterprise or finish something, right now is not the time to do it. Now's the time to take a vacation between now and the next 2.5 weeks and prepare to start all kinds of new programs. You ever have days where, regardless of how hard you try to work and get something done, it just falls apart? In other days, you try to screw it up every which way you can, it goes together perfectly. You'll find that those perfect days are always new moon days. Yeah.
Yeah, part about the brain being a switch.
Yeah.
I was curious, is that similar to how the extraterrestrials paralyze people? They control that switch mechanism in the brain?
They do, yeah. But you got to understand, he's asking a question that has to do with a little bit more than what we're talking about here. You see, the pyramid, if you were to take the pyramid and look at it, especially in a red blood cell, this could kind of follow along with what we're talking about here now. We got to go backwards. If you were to look at the pyramid, right? There's the pyramid on the top right there. It's got a top and a bottom. It's got a male and a female energy. Now, I'll show you how that works in a minute. If you were to look at a red blood cell, which has 4 iron atoms in it, has 2 alpha, 2 beta chains, like you see there in that drawing, inside the pyramid, in here, it has the ability to separate from the hydrogen atom itself these 7 different energies, the life force energies that we talked about up here, which I showed you on the previous chart. The pyramid is able to take those and throw them out of there into a cellular structure and release energy of life force in the cells through the hydrogen atom. That's why if you had some grapefruit juice or orange juice, balanced pH is balanced taste, and it was bitter, put this down on top of the grapefruit juice and waited for a minute, the grapefruit juice would also become sweet because the pyramid has that ability. Okay? It takes about a minute or two. And I'm just going to show the front row something here. You can also increase that process in your own metabolism by taking a few breaths and rubbing your hands together. Just try this. Rub your hands together. Okay, very vigorously. And then open your hands and you'll feel it tingling. And you'll feel it moving back and forth and changing with the width of your hands. Okay? Now, let me show you guys in the front row something. And if you want, you can try this for yourself. Rub your hands together, okay? And hold them up like that. And watch what happens if I put the pyramid over them. Open your hands up. Now open them. Okay, feel that? It changes. You can feel the tingling change. See that? Yeah. This is because I'm amplifying the life force within the body. We talk about the life force. It's pretty wild, huh? Some of you will be real sensitive to it. Depends on how clear your livers are. If your livers are a little blocked, you'll be a little less sensitive to it. And also your spleen, because your spleen is in your blood, you're transmitting force factor. See? Now, how many so far on the first row felt something? Okay? About 100%. How many didn't feel anything on the first row? One person, see? Okay? So you can do this, you can do this with, this is a power dome, it amplifies the energy. Okay, now, look at the shape of that pyramid. And if you study the Great Pyramid in Egypt, for example, you'll find it has all the divine geometry of the human body. That pyramid is a 4-sided, and the first half, or an 8-sided on both halves pyramid. Now, I know I don't have the breakdown, but we have dissected grays, and we know that inside a gray is a blood, but not like we know it. Their blood is like chlorophyll. The magnesium atom is the heart of a gray. So that means that they have a 3-sided pyramid or an octahedral shape. When you have a 3-sided pyramid or an octahedral shape, what happens is that the gray can only ground out 6 levels of consciousness. It cannot ground out the 7th level of consciousness. Okay? I'll back this thing up or go forward with it. That physical plane is not for the grays. They get all the way down. Their physical plane is the astral plane, but they have a physical body. But in their spirit, that's as far down as they go, the astral plane. Now what happens when you go to sleep at night, where do you go? Astral plane, right? And when you hypnotize someone, what are you working with? Emotional energies, right? Astral plane. So if the foundation of a gray is the astral plane, the foundation is of a human, it's quite easy for a gray to approach a human when they're sleeping. They can walk right into their dreams. And that's how they are able to hypnotize people, abduct them, implant them, get them pregnant, do an abortion after 3 months, and do all the things you read about without a human even knowing it happened, unless the human is very sensitive or is regressed.
Are you familiar with the Flower of Life seminar?
Nope, the what?
Power of life.
No.
He used a 3-sided that's not...
Well, I don't know what he's using it for. What it does is it increases the mental energy of the body. If you wear it, for example, if you were to wear a 3-sided pyramid versus a 4, it would increase one body of energy, but not all 7. It separates. Yeah.
I think it hypnotized sometimes stuff like that. And why could they block regret?
Why can't they? They can, some people. Depends on how powerful. It depends on how, see, when you block regression, you can only do it in a person that doesn't have their own free will. Some people don't. That depends on your past life karma. The next thing we look at are cycles. See, what time am I up here till now anyways? 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 3:30? 4, okay, good. I just got to time myself or I'll be halfway through something and you guys will really be mad at me, yeah. Yeah. Or 6-sided if you look. Yeah, that's the 4th side. This is 3, right. Okay, now we have cycles of consciousness here, okay? We got the moon going around the earth. And that changes the surface tension of water. The tide's something different every day. There's 31 different positions of the tide. Okay? The body's the same way. One day you could shout at somebody and it have no effect on them because the surface tension is maybe in the new moon. Some other time you could shout at the same person in the same environment in the full moon, you'd freak the hell out of them because the surface tension of the body is different. And this has to do, once again now, with how the stimulus of these different vibrations are going to affect the brain. And this affects consciousness. Okay? When it affects consciousness, what happens is we have the new moon period or the full moon period. We have the crime rate going up during the full moon and the crime rate dropping during the new moon, right? In Turkey, for example, they have 1,000-year-old laws that give some lenience to the offender if he does his crime during a full moon. So if you go to Turkey and rob a bank, make sure the moon is full. You might get off for it, you know. The Earth and the moon go around the sun 365 and a quarter days. This has a reciprocating effect on the sun, which releases solar wind, which has to do with modulated by human consciousness, which has to do with earthquakes. In other words, you can start an earthquake, you can stop an earthquake, you can do all these things with your consciousness. And if you always notice, earthquakes always occur during a solar flare, and usually during a full moon, unless they're a controlled one like the Andromeda is up performing during a new moon, as the last one in LA was. So it depends on what type of earthquake you're experiencing, but the ones that we would call the natural ones that do a lot of destruction are usually the ones that man's emotions cause in the first place. Also, it has to do with winter and summer. In summer, the sap is high in the plant, leaves are open to the sun, it's receiving the sunlight with all the vitality globules in it, and it's creating the ATP, it's enhancing the ATP molecule in the body and the sugar, and you get plenty of energy, and you feel really good. But the spirit is also more into the environment. In the wintertime, when the sap is in the ground, absorbing energy off the nucleus of the earth, what happens then is the seed is being recharged, which has the most power. It's the highest power of energy of all. Like squirrels, for example, hold seeds all the time. And what happens then is that we have a tendency to go within. So we have the Christmas, and we have the family reunions and the spiritual stuff. More or less goes on in the wintertime. So you begin to see that cycle. Then we have a bigger cycle where the Earth and the Moon and the Sun goes around the Pleiades every 27,000 or 25,827.5 years. If you were to look at the Great Pyramid in Egypt, you'd find that exactly, if you were to take how many inches is around here, it would be exactly 25,827.5 all the way around the bottom of it. Okay. So the next thing that we have to take into consideration is that the Earth and the Moon and the Sun going around that period of time, you have 2,000-year cycles. And these 2,000-year cycles, once again, are always affecting the sensitivity of the vibratory level whereby hormones are assimilated and utilized by the brain in the consciousness. And depending on what cycle we're in, we're going from the Aquarian cycle now, the Piscean cycle now, where the soul, because when you get down into the DNA and reproduction and what attracts a certain soul into a certain chromosome bank of a male and a female combined, you end up looking at a particular pattern of consciousness of that combination of that male and that female. And that male and female combination has a tendency on this planet to bring in emotional souls or believing souls over the last 2,000 years. And we have a Piscean age. As a result of that, the soul was a believer, had to structure a belief around something, so religion was chosen. And so a lot of religions, most of them were built in the last 2,000 years.